Well, good evening, everyone. You're listening to Red Pill 78. I am the Corruption Detector, and this is your Red Pill News. Hope everyone's having a lovely day and that you've had a marvelous weekend as well. I have returned to the daily show here, Red Pill News, every day, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I shouldn't say every day, it's basically Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, but I might be throwing some extras in there as well, maybe on a Monday. I'm taking Mondays off, needed a little break for myself and my family. I just want to say, first of all, thank you to everyone who has supported the program in lieu of the recent situation, the demonetization here at YouTube. Truly, now, more than ever, without the help of you, my viewers, I would not be able to survive. We've got a lot of news to go over today. First of all, this is the 71st anniversary of the printing of the seminal book by George Orwell, 1984, and what took place in that book is truer today than at any other time in history. We're also going to be talking about the fallout in Chicago. The mayor is pleading with Walmart and other companies not to leave the city. Also, we have some leaked conversation between the mayor of Chicago and the alderman of that city, also speaking about the dangers to the residents. I'm going to have to bleep some words out, but I think it's very important. I want you guys to hear it. Next, we have a story about a company hired to contact trace American citizens in multiple states. It turns out the CEO has falsified their educational background, so we're going to dive into that. And finally, we're going to be taking a look at the Buffalo protester, a man named Martin Gugino. President Trump spoke about him earlier today. We have some information on who Martin is. It looks like he is a far-left protester who showed up simply to rile up both sides. He was looking for fun, he said. All right, guys, well, we're going to go over all this and more, so please, everyone, do sit back, relax, grab your popcorn, and we'll be right back after a brief word from our sponsor. You know, a lot of folks have lost hope recently, and with the stock market returning minus 10% since the start of the year, for a lot of people, it's looking dismal, but it doesn't have to be. Crazy as it sounds, gold has actually gained ground by around 15%. That's a 25% more bang for your buck. It's probably something you've never considered before. So, should you be investing in precious metals? Gold, silver, palladium, and platinum have proven to be safe haven investments. It's the only investment with appreciating value during an economic collapse. If you're interested in securing your wealth, call Noble Gold Investment today at 877-646-5347. That's 877-646-5347. Or visit the website at noblegoldinvestments.com. Once again, that's noblegoldinvestments.com. And remember, when you support my sponsors, you support this channel. All right, guys, thanks for sticking around. First of all, today, 71 years ago today, George Orwell published 1984, and he left us with a single final warning. Now, for those of you who don't know, the seminal work of George Orwell, 1984, is a book about a dystopian future, a place where conformity of thought, action, and deed and word is completely rampant through society. Loyalty to Big Brother is demanded, and if you take a look around at what the left is asking us to do today, I think that you'll find many, many parallels. Now, a major theme in that novel is the kind of wordsmithing that's done. The Ministry of Truth has a slogan, and it is, "War is peace, freedom is slavery, ignorance is strength." It kind of reminds you of exactly what the left is doing right now. Now, this is a frightening worldview, which is very quickly becoming a reality here. Just take a look at what's happening on this platform. But even what Orwell predicted is still not as crazy as what we see within the Democratic Party today. Think about the peaceful protesters, which have resulted in absolute carnage, rioting, fires. We've had massive loss of life, looting. We have major crimes taking place in the streets. The police standing down and doing absolutely nothing about it, with the people who are the peaceful protesters pushing the cops around and essentially making them lay down on the ground or kneel on the ground. It's almost as if these people have become the oppressors themselves. Now, here is the message from George Orwell that I wanted to play for you. Let's go ahead and take a listen.
You once claimed that you have an ability to face unpleasant facts. Is that what you've demonstrated in 1984 by drawing an accurate portrait of the future?
I think that allowing for the book being, after all, a parody, something like 1984 could actually happen. This is the direction the world is going in at the present time. In our world, there will be no emotions except fear, rage, triumph and self-abasement. The sex instinct will be eradicated. We shall abolish the orgasm. There will be no loyalty except loyalty to the party. But always there will be the intoxication of power. Always, at every moment, there will be the thrill of victory, the sensation of trampling on an enemy who is helpless. If you want a picture of the future, imagine a boot stamping on a human face forever. The moral to be drawn from this dangerous nightmare situation is a simple one. Don't let it happen. It depends on you.
Quite the chilling final message, and I think that most people watching this are going to look out at the world around you right now and find some commonality between those words that George Orwell spoke and the world that we are now living in. They've taken a world of human beings and changed us into a compartmentalized series of boxes. We are what they define us as. We are the identity that they give us or they tell us that we must adhere to. And truly, my friends, it is up to us to make sure that those words that Orwell spoke never fully come to pass. That is the mission that we have right now. Draining the swamp means transferring that power from the people who would fully subjugate us and giving it back to the people and making it not about power over another person, but the advancement of humanity. Now, the people of Chicago are very quickly learning what happens when you remove police protection from the streets and you transfer that power into the hands of people who solely want to exert their own power and authority over other people. Right now, the mayor of Chicago is pleading with large big box stores like Walmart and other companies to not leave the city after they were looted and destroyed over the past week or so. Now, these recent riots saw multiple large stores looted. Some retailers are now having very public second thoughts about even remaining in those cities. And Mayor Lori Lightfoot, the woman on the screen right there, has been speaking with them and asking them not to leave. Not only do these companies make it possible for the residents of these cities to survive and get the things they need, they also provide a majority of the tax revenue that these cities themselves need to survive. Now, Mayor Lightfoot is hopeful that the retailers are going to reopen on the streets of Chicago after they were looted, not only there, but also in places like Minnesota. But she is unsure about whether or not Walmart, probably the biggest big box store in the city of Chicago, is going to come back at all. She was carrying on a conference call with Walmart and other major retailers that had their stores heavily damaged during the rioting in Chicago, and she pleaded with them not to abandon the city. She said, I think in the case of Walmart, what they were focused on was assessing the damage, as they should be. They are doing an effort to donate fresh produce to the extent of what's left. It doesn't perish and other perishables, and they are taking their time, as I would expect. Now, who can we blame if the companies decide to leave the cities? It was the leadership in these cities who decided to tell the police to stand down and allow this destruction to carry on. Now, these companies, they may never recover the lost revenue, the lost inventory, or the cost of rebuilding these stores. So in that case, why would they want to stay around? And then you have the people of Chicago. There were plenty of people in that city and in other cities who had nothing to do with the devastation, but it is them who are going to suffer. I said earlier on Occam's Razor with Methods that if these stores choose not to come back, I find it very unlikely that any stores would be willing to take a chance and come back into these cities, especially if the police departments are disbanded, as many of these large cities with Democratic-controlled city councils and city governments are speculating about doing, and even in some cases are actually doing. The riots have intrinsically damaged these cities, not only physically, but psychologically. And I would also hazard a guess to say that the people in these cities who had nothing to do with the devastation are more than likely going to reconsider whether or not they want to stay either. Now, here next I have a tweet from my friend The Sharp Edge. This is some stunning audio that was leaked from a phone conversation that the mayor of Chicago, Lori Lightfoot, and some of the aldermen from the city, I believe aldermen are like city council members. It's about 2 minutes long. There is some profanity. I'm going to edit out the profanity, but I just want you to hear the tone that they take with each other. The rest of the leadership of the government there in the city of Chicago is not happy with Lori Lightfoot and the job that she did in protecting the city, or rather, the job she did not protecting the city. So I think it's very important for you to hear this, because I think a lot of people look at what's going on in these cities and it's difficult to separate the different groups of people, because there are peaceful protesters out there who, by using their First Amendment rights, they are doing a wonderful thing. It is their right as an American citizen to demonstrate and to speak their voice. But then you have a whole other group of people who are just going out there to destroy and steal and pick up a free whatever it is that they're going to get from the Target store that they break into. So let's go ahead and take a listen to this clip.
We can't expect our police, and I don't fault them at all, to be able to control this. But I know that we asked our faith base yesterday to stand at the front line between police and looters and rioters. And I am simply not comfortable telling my churches, those people, to be the intermediary in the middle of a riot that's citywide. We need something better, because right now we only have 370 whatever National Guards on standby. Half our neighborhoods are already obliterated. It's too late. We have to come up with a better plan, because my fear is once they're done looting and rioting and whatever's going to happen tonight, God help us, what happens when they start going after residents, going into the neighborhoods? Once they start trying to break down people's doors so they think they got something, or, we know that people are here to antagonize and incite, and you've got them all pumped today, they're not going to go to bed at 8 o'clock. They're going to turn their focus in the neighborhoods. I've got gangbangers with AK-47s walking around right now, just waiting to settle some scores. What are we going to do, and what do we tell our residents other than good faith people stand up? It's not going to be enough.
Thank you, Alderman. Next question.
Well, no, I want an answer. You commented on everybody. I want an answer. It's not something you ignore. This is a question that I have.
I think you're 100% full of shit, is what I think. If you think
no offense, you then.
Hold on.
Who are you to tell me I'm full of shit?
And if you think we were not ready and we stood by and let the neighborhood go up, there's nothing intelligent that I can say to you.
Well, maybe you should come out and see what's going on.
One of the stupidest things I have ever heard. I understand you want to preen. I understand that you think that you...
Mayor, you need to check your f***ing attitude. That's what you need to do.
Every single person
Right now, no. You need to check your attitude.
Stunning. So first of all, the level of disconnect with the mayor of Chicago. The fact that she could not understand that now there are no stores left to loot. Of course, there is a concern that these people would then move into the neighborhoods. It's already been stated previously publicly that that is the goal of the group behind the majority of this unrest. And then when you throw in the disbanding of the police force there in the city of Chicago, how can they, in good conscience, ask the leaders of the religious organizations there in the city of Chicago to stand between the rioters and the police and somehow moderate? The people left in the neighborhoods that have not been destroyed already are the next ones who are going to be at risk. And the attitude of Mayor Lightfoot here on this call is just mind-blowing. It's no wonder they leaked it. Now, if you've been watching anything, I'm sure you saw the footage come out of Buffalo, which showed an older gentleman, I'll be kind, 75-year-old man, He came up and he was kind of being provocative with the police as they were trying to clear the square because it was after curfew. He was shoved, and there was some confusion as to the nature of exactly what happened next. Now, either he was injured or it was a theatrical production. Now, President Trump spoke out about this just earlier this morning. He said Buffalo protester shoved by police could be a bad guys in black provocateur. 75-year-old Martin Gugino was pushed away after appearing to scan police communications in order to black out the equipment. I watched, he fell harder than he was pushed, was aiming a scanner, could be a setup. And that was a theory that was going around. Many people thought the exact same thing. There was some strange stuff happening with the mask that he was wearing. It looked like he was wearing two masks. Perhaps there was a tube there. The amount of fluid that came from his ear was not something that would happen naturally. There was also a strange bump on the back of his head, which could have been a reservoir, which was filled with the fluid that appeared to come out of his ear. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at a thread from Roscoe B. Davis, because he breaks down just exactly who Martin Gugino is. All right, and Roscoe starts out his thread by saying that he's had enough with the peaceful protester being shoved down in Buffalo. The man is Martin Gugino, a 75-year-old longtime radical protester that had been arrested over 300 times for his radical troublemaking and 82 times for inciting. This is a picture of just one of those times. He says that man is far from being an innocent old man as he is being portrayed by some. Gugino is a longtime hard-left agitator with a documented long-time criminal record of inciting riots and astroturfing. He's an open society-funded radical. This is what he does. Gugino's Facebook and Twitter accounts have been deleted. The accounts reveal he's a seasoned leftist activist who had a self-described obsession with Cuba. Gugino has ties to radical socialist Catholic worker movement, which is behind the Witness Against Torture program. But we do have some screenshots. Now, here is a little gem right there. He says, F the police. Then he says right here, she did great. ACAB, they would have clubbed her to death. ACAB stands for all cops are, and then it is an expletive. Now, I can't show this video because I am afraid it's going to get taken down, but he says as Gugino approached one of the officers before he was shoved, it appeared to be waving his phone oddly around their badges. I think it was Vlad Tippis that tweeted, can't find the tweet, that this was a deliberate attempt to scan information, also highlighted by the Last Refuge too. So let's see if we can't get a look. You can see there he's got his phone in his hand, he's waving it around, and look, he's specifically going after several different officers, going right for their equipment, trying to either jam it or perhaps trying to use a near-field communication device to steal the information off of it, and then the private, personal information of these police officers could have been handed over to additional far-left agitators. Now, I don't know for certain that an iPhone or Android can't be enabled to read an ISO 7816 smart chip card. I know they have readers that will attach to your iPhone to read a credit card, and it's the same. Police IDs in large cities are chipped. I can't prove that what he was doing was nefarious, but it raises enough questions to ask more questions about this guy's lengthy background. It's not out of the question. Regardless, the way he approached the LEOs, he was out of line and he was trying to provoke a response, and he did. Buffalo's mayor, Byron Brown, called Gugino an agitator who was trying to spark up the crowd of people. They know who he is and are familiar with him, yet the county folded to the mob and charged the officers. Earlier in the day, he was called out by peaceful protesters trying to stir SHIT up. All of it was caught on video. Gugino was arguing with other protesters before the event, trying to stir the pot. Buffalo police officers Robert McCabe and Aaron Torgalski were suspended without pay, prompting 57 members of the Buffalo riot squad to resign in protest. The two officers were charged with felony assault, to which they pled not guilty, as they should. State police was brought in to assist Buffalo after the 57 cops, the department's entire emergency response team, resigned in solidarity. This mob mentality and these bureaucrats folding to the mob is unacceptable. Think about how quickly defund the police went from a hashtag flag to legislation. This is insanity. The speed with which this defund nonsense morphs tells me it was 100% orchestrated. Think Alinsky 101. But make no mistake, Gugino is a professional protester. Here he is seen in Cleveland, Ohio, demanding murder charges against the Cleveland police officer who deleted Tamir Rice. Gugino is also a member of Push Buffalo and Western New York Peace Center, among others, all radical groups. Another day in Buffalo protesting climate change, justice, and jobs. He's a regular. And of course, a GoFundMe has also been set up to support Gugino. It has about $35,000 so far. So I thought it was important to show you guys this theory about what he might have been trying to do, also to show you his history as an agitator. Clearly, before he even came to this event, he was looking to stir up trouble. I'm going to leave the link to Roscoe's tweet in the pinned comment below so you guys can watch the series of videos which expose Gugino for who he is. And finally, a company that has been hired to do contact tracing on American citizens in multiple states is run by a CEO who falsified their educational background. Now, this company has been hired in New York and Texas to perform the contact tracing activities. It's being led by this individual with the false educational background. It's not exactly the person that you want to be telling you that you have to go on a 14-day quarantine because he claims to have run into someone with an infectious disease. If they can't be honest about who they are, then how can you trust them to tell you that you have to give up your life for 2 weeks? Now, the name of the company is MTX Group, and they were recently hired in these 2 states to perform the contact tracing. They're supposed to be ensuring that everyone who comes in contact with individuals in these states who have the sickness will then be put into a 14-day quarantine so they won't be able to transmit this sickness to anybody else. Now, just as an example about the efficiency and accuracy of their work, one of their products is election canvassing, and on the actual website itself, they show a prediction of the 2016 presidential election, and they predicted that Hillary would get 322 electoral college votes to Donald Trump's 216. Well, we all know how that one turned out, don't we? Now, the contact tracing is a questionable practice at best. It was invented with the advent of this new sickness, and it's clearly unconstitutional from an individual rights point of view. The long-term and justifiable fear that many people have is that a corrupt government will use contact tracing to identify and track political opponents and then use that contact tracing to keep them quarantined forever. The firm in Texas to be in charge of contact tracing, MTX, was given a large contract, and some people are questioning whether or not that should have happened at all. Now, Jay Root is an investigative reporter for the Houston Chronicle. He told the Texas Standard host David Brown on Tuesday there is very little evidence that MTX Group has the qualifications to manage the idea of contact tracing in Texas. He and his colleague Jeremy Blackman investigated the contract for this recent story they wrote for the Chronicle. Now, in the bid, MTX proposed to set up a call center and hire contact tracing agents whose sole job it would be to figure out whom a person with CV-19 has been in contact with in recent weeks. Now, the company claims to have set up a similar operation in the state of New York, but they have not yet spent any of the $46 million awarded as part of that contract there, which means that they haven't really set it up in New York yet at all. Now, it's run by these people, a husband and wife team. They are Daz and Nippa Nobel. Daz is the one with the questionable past. He reportedly doctored his educational background on LinkedIn, where he claims to have a doctorate. That is something that is fairly important. Now, Daz says in an online profile on LinkedIn that he has a doctorate of management, organizational development, and leadership from Colorado Technical University, and that he went there from 2008 to 2012. This is the actual screen grab of that. Now, with the advent of CV-19, state governments are claiming they have the right to know where everyone is, to track them at any time of day. This Orwellian gimmick, which brings us back to the first story, 1984, is being used to control and track all Americans, and it obviously gives us some major concerns for our own privacy. Now, if the government uses this technology, then they can claim to have the right to force you to take a poke and a stab medicine, but all of those medicines, as of right now, are completely untested and unproven. And I personally am not comfortable with the idea of being given medicine that I do not approve of. Now, governments are also expected to tell you what you can and cannot do. They are going to essentially control your freedom for the rest of your life if they can keep this narrative going. Now, a familiar name, Lori Lightfoot, the current mayor of Chicago, was cheering on the fact that Chicago had hired 600 tracers to track the citizens of that city about the CV-19. Now, I think that most people, when they hear about the idea of being tracked by their government, being forced into a 10-day quarantine, not being able to share a bathroom with other people in your home if you're in isolation, being placed into further isolation for 14 days, not being able to take care of your children or being able to see your family, being told that you have to do all these things if you eat at a restaurant, and then it turns out that someone with this sickness also ate at that restaurant at some time. This is a big government grab, and the implications for it are scary and very, very broad. I think that if there's anything that we're going to be standing up for, it is the removal of this CV-19 narrative from our cultural and national lexicon. I think that everything we've seen, all of the evidence, especially in light of recent weeks where people were allowed to demonstrate in whatever manner they wanted, not even having any type of regard for social distancing, shows us everything we need to know about what this sickness is really about. And it's about the election. Well, guys, I think that's all that I have for you today. I just want to give another special shout out to Gaffer Anon for the shirt, also to his wife for the painting. Make sure to tune in on Thursday for that episode of Occam's Razor. I will show the painting and anything else that I've gotten in the mail. I think I just got something else while I was up here recording the show. As always, this has been Red Pill 78. I am the Corruption Detector, and this was your Red Pill News. Good luck, everyone, and God bless. Hey guys, one more thing. I just want to say thank you to everybody who has supported the channel. If you're interested in doing more, there is always links in the description below. I have the merch store. Of course, I also have the backup channels. Please subscribe to those. If you take a look up here, you're going to see a couple of other videos. There's also a spot to subscribe if you have not subscribed yet. And if you are subscribed, I ask you to please check and make sure that you're still subscribed and your notifications are turned on. Thank you everybody for watching the program, and I will see you tomorrow.